everyone. Welcome to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and I guess you recognize my co-host here, Ron. And I hope everybody's had a good week. And I know that we had a good weekend. We had a productive one. And so we hope you did too. And tonight I'm bringing you guys a guest. The last time I had on Brett was way back in 2018. So you guys may never have heard me interview him before. So this is going to be all brand new again. So I'd like to welcome Brett Yakabuchi to the show.
You almost did it. You almost did it.
Almost? Okay.
Almost. Thanks for having me. I'm excited for where I can see where this is going to go tonight.
Yakabuchi, right?
Yakabuchi.
It needs an H.
Like Kambuchi.
It's actually Italian, but somewhere along the way, my ancestors came into the U.S. They took out the I instead of Y, and yeah. Long story short, it's supposed to be IACO.
I figured somebody misspelled it when they came in and said, "The hell with this. This is where we're going now."
Yep. Absolutely.
I think that's what happened to my family's name, because mine is Myers, Thomas, Thompson, and Roach. Roach got changed to Roach, Roach.
But it used to be latrine.
Nope, never was latrine.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
that's from a movie. Robin Hood.
He knows because he's Canadian. So at least you heard him giggle, so he knew. Yeah. So can you explain to everybody, you know, your title says the wizard. Why are you a wizard? And how does that happen?
Well, the way I came about that was, I admittedly, without airing any dirty laundry on air, had a really bad relationship for a good 12 years of my life, which fortunately, that's when I was on with you about last time. And when I was on like with Chuck and, doing the whole circuit, went down to Hinsdale. That was a fun place, by the way. I'd love to go back there at some point in time. I'd like to see if the work I did in the forest there had stuck, but I can do that remotely if I really need to.
But work with Chuck and Coyote Chris, right?
Yes, I was with.
You were with them on that one?
Yep. Yeah, I was. Wow. Me and my and a wizard partner were special guests for a bit there, and we just kind of
say hello to my mom.
Hi, Ron's mom. But anyways, and so basically, I had to live two lives back in the day. Like I had to live, like Dad Brett, where I had to keep my stuff together at home. Try to survive what was going on in the house, trying to be there to protect the kids, try to provide. And then there was Paranormal Brett, which was the complete polar opposite, but I had to keep them very, very separated. So, fast forward a few years, finally got divorced, finally got out, finally started to heal. And of course, my father was an electrician turned hypnotist because he was bored when he retired. And so what I've kind of, I know, hands on to, hands in your mind, go and figure, like the two polar opposites. And so basically kind of what I started to do was, as I was doing my first bit of healing with him, of course, he goes, "Oh, let's talk about it. Oh, let's do this. Oh, let's help you figure it out. Let's do some hypnosis." I'm like, no hypnosis, but we could talk about it. And so basically, even when I was paranormal investigating, I never automatically, even though like I could feel things and, hear things, see things, get imagery, get impressions, past timelines, multiple timelines, all that other kind of jazz. Basically, like I always, if there's the least possibility that there being like a physical answer for why that phenomenon is happening, high EMF, radiation, sound interference, ultrasonics, whatever, I would try to find a way to work with that. So now I now go ahead another couple of years, work with exorcists, work with shamans. For a while there, I was kind of the guy in the background that whenever the shamans and the exorcists failed, I was the one who went in and was successful with it. And not through combat, not through negotiation and speaking and trying to come to an agreement with it instead. Doesn't mean I don't know how to keep myself safe. It's just keeping it civil, like giving that level of respect first, because you don't know where the energies come from. You don't know why they're there. You don't know why they're trapped, or if they're there of their own free will. You don't know. So going in guns blazing kind of sets things off on the wrong foot. So now I spent a good number of years doing that, and I'm like, okay, I've learned what I need to do there. Let's switch it over to doing readings, rune readings, tarot readings, pendulum work, that kind of stuff. And basically, a wizard, in the traditional sense, really, I'm just someone who works with both the cognitive and the intuitive at the same time to bring them together. Because you can think of as the cognitive as you have your workbench, the intuitive being Google. Google itself is useless. Your workbench without ideas is useless. You put the two together, that's when you have tangible results that you can literally be, I don't want to say relevant, but you can be effective with any personality type. You can be you could go in to kind of anybody's home, because I've done a little bit of studying, in I'm baptized Catholic, hadn't stepped in church since I was 18. But nothing against that if that's what you do, just not for me. I a lot of work I started with was with the runes and the pantheons of like the Viking religions, the Viking belief systems, and basically a lot of the polytheistic belief systems after that to help me get the understanding of my energy work. And even then I still use runes. Like I have tarot runes. I have all the tools actually right here beside me, just in case anybody decides to try and be naughty. And I have to kick some ass while I'm on screen, but but and then I worked with Wiccans for a while to help understand how they see things, and then I worked, like, I'm on the first name basis, not on call per se, but when there's only 2 exorcists in like Ontario and Eastern Canada, I was on call with them for if they couldn't deal with it, they'd give me a call. So then I learned how they worked, and then I worked with shamans. I worked with Coyote Chris. I worked with another shaman out of New England that kind of traveled a little bit. He lived a very nomadic lifestyle. What was his name? Leslie something. Anyways, great dude. He came up for a couple paranormal cons up here. He taught me a little bit about that. I worked with some local shamans, local natives, and then so basically the term wizard is sometimes I use intuitive to solve the problem. Sometimes it's logical and cognitive thought processes and sciences and physics and but a lot of times it's putting it together to make it work, because sometimes the intuitive isn't the whole answer and other times the cognitive is the whole answer, and it's a mix of both. And so, like I come with a lot of creative solutions. I mean, like I shared this with a lot of my allies I'm still kind of working with now as things are picking up with the with a lot of the world events going on. Not to go into those, but a lot of the world events, there's a lot of stuff that I'm working with in conjunction with other people, both terrestrial, non-terrestrial, to make sure certain things happen, make sure certain things don't happen, which even then, all you can really do is affect the energy, and then the energy comes down, and then human free will kind of takes over with whatever the influence from the energy is, right? So I guess I just started calling myself the wizard because when you said, oh yeah, I'm a practicing psychic, someone goes, yeah, right, you're a big guy, you're too loud, you don't have all the jewels and all the gems, and you cuss like a trucker, and you're not a psychic. But then when I start like just banging stuff out like that on the spot, they're like, huh, what just happened? And so I've learned to be very incognito, or a modern day wizard. I don't have my EDC tools here because I might have heavy work stuff, but I have an EDC knife that I carry on me. That's my positive energy node. I have a brass lighter. That's my negative energy node. One sits in my right pocket, one sits in my left. So that way there, I'm never the endpoint of any unsuspecting energy, or if I'm out to be in public, or if someone's trying to be a little naughty, I'm never the endpoint of that energy. And that's, if anybody who's watching this, you're struggling with that, you're struggling, especially empathic people, people who are working with that kind of stuff or just learning, don't be the endpoint of that energy, regardless of what you're doing. Whether you're working with energy, human energy, non-human energy, extra dimensional energy. Would you just focus, camera? Jesus. I have a smart camera, apparently, that as I'm moving my hand, it keeps shifting the thing. Sorry, I'm a hand talker.
That's okay, so am I. I have a really hard time with it.
Yeah.
See?
I mean, I have my quartz right here in my hand as I'm fidgeting with it, just to give my one hand something to do. But anyways, and so, like that's, and ultimately anybody that I teach, like I know a couple of my allies that I work with locally, they're going to watch this. Not that I know they're busy tonight. They work late shift, but they're going to watch this in post because I kind of talked it up, and they'll be able to really back how I work, because I have about 6 people that I work with very closely in Southern Ontario. I have about 4 teams that I work with, like as consults, or like they'll get a call, hey, something's going on, we need you to take a look, and I'll tune in remotely, do what I got to do. And more often than not, I can deal with it remotely and I don't have to go in person. So, I mean, but that took years. I used to have to go to all the sites. But even though there's still a couple of sites here in Southern Ontario that I go to and I protect, because they are like, they're heritage sites. Like one of them, it was a property for a very famous family down like kind of more towards the border of Detroit there. But I've been a protector of that site now for, oh, hey, there he is. There's my one friend, Jonathan. He's one of my.
You only have one?
No, he's actually the partner I'm talking about. He's the dude that came down to Hinsdale with me too. So he knows exactly what site I'm talking about. And this site here, I did a bit of research in it, so I actually had the proper numbers before this. Look at that, amazing. No notes, but I actually prepped. There's a site that was it was given to a family from one of the British colonels back in 1809, and it became a proper farmstead in 1850. It is now a living museum still, with artifacts from the family, artifacts from the villages around that used to be there. Just down the street, there's an old church that is the original church that was built in 1890. That's still standing there, I think, 1890, early 1900s. I couldn't get an exact date on the church because the records weren't very clear. But that's one of the sites where, and if we have time, I'd like to share a bit of a story about a really scary experience there, actually, at one of the last big public events. Oh, I could talk about this all day for months if necessary.
Well, I will put a kibosh on it at some point.
We did have a 6-hour show once.
Yeah, we did.
6 hours.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, I don't know what your viewers are gonna want. Obviously, you can see the chat as you come up, which is good because we can answer questions as it comes along. But this site here, I discovered when I was part of a team doing just group investigations, and actually I'm a bit of an unofficial member of Jonathan's team because he's one of my friends and students, and he calls me whenever there's something that he can't deal with. So that's but every big paranormal public investigation, sorry, my mind's getting pulled in 3 different directions. As I'm talking about it, I'm going there because I'm very turned on right now, wizard wise. So if I disassociate slightly, please forgive me. Give me a second, and I'll come back.
It's okay.
It has one of the last remaining natural form portals in the back property of it. It's got a whole conservation area land around it. The spirits in there are awesome. They communicate so well. They are so friendly. And they let me or John know, even when other teams are there, when there's something going on, I'll get hey, we need help. And then I can pop over there and deal with it. But, just the quick story about that space. And I know one of the other investigators who's starting to learn was there, and she only knows part of the details.
So we're all kind of froze up.
Yep.
No, he did.
So here we go.
Carl even left.
There we go. I'm on Starlink,
Okay.
so I may drop packets. I apologize.
That's okay. But what you said about the location calling you remotely, telling you that something's going on, that they need help. We used to have that happen to me from the Sally house all the time when we lived in Kansas. Used to happen all the time. Anytime there was somebody there that was doing something stupid, they would, and then the next, I'd have to call and say, hey, somebody's doing something stupid. Go fix it.
Yeah. Well, and there's like 2 or 3 sites here in Ontario that I do protect like that. But that's one of the main ones that is like actively investigated. A few of the other ones are just natural, kind of, there might be the odd person might stumble across it. But those are the sites that are worth protecting, because those are the sites where there's natural ley lines, where, like even like the natives, like they're finding native artifacts all over the property. Like, you know what I mean? So like like that had some significance.
Hey, Robert and Tom and Susan, welcome everyone.
Mike, Tom,
we appreciate
Jonathan,
you guys being here.
Robert.
But
on these you did say something earlier that I want to return to before we get too far away. You said that you had a knife in your pocket on one side and a brass lighter in the other, and that one was positive and one was negative. Is that to ground yourself so that you're not the end point? Is that why you did that?
Yes. And that's like ultimately that, like, because I if I know I'm going into a spot where it might be hostile, or if there's going to be a lot of people, because obviously I don't suffer from anxiety. I don't get any of that. But when I'm out in public and there's a lot of people, even when I shield myself up, it's still very hard to keep from absorbing other people's energy and emotions and their heavy stuff, right? And so those are kind of like a safeguard, almost as like an extra layer, so that when my cognitive or my intuitive focus drops, at least I have another backup there. That's just by intention. It's just, I guess that's I guess that's kind of the secret to it, because like, how to say this, because when it comes down to it, energy work is all about intention. And and you probably know that. Sure, if you need rituals, if you need the full moon, the half moon, new moon, sun in Aquarius, and all this other, astrological stuff, great, that's on you. That's whatever you need to do it. But ultimately, sure, I have, a chunk of wrought iron, like just raw. And then, I have my quartz. I've cracked so many quartz crystals running so much energy through them. This is the first one that I haven't cracked yet. And I've had it for about 10 years now. But I've had ones that were pristine, and literally, I'm holding them in my hand working, and they shatter. I'm running that much energy through them. But these are just simple. You could have all the tools and, like, for example, this, I'm not too sure if the light's going to do any justice, but this is just a copper pendulum. Just copper, nothing too spectacular. This is what I use when I'm actually legitimately on site, because everybody expects an energy worker to be using a proper pendulum. This, a wind-up mechanical pocket watch, because I can't have anything battery against, because it either makes my whole part of my numb where it is, or I kill the battery, one of those two. Just a mechanical pocket watch, legitimately working, wind up. But this is my pendulum when I'm out in public, because nobody ever questions when you're just sitting there swinging a pocket watch in your hand. Nobody questions it. But if you're swinging a crystal on a chain, people question it.
Yeah.
And and I like to call it being incognito, because everybody is okay with the idea of a psychic or an energy worker working, but they're not okay with the idea of seeing said psychic or energy worker working. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. We have to have an open mind, closed-mindedness that happens in the paranormal.
Yeah.
We say one thing and we do another. Yes.
Yep.
Dan, we are on now.
This is
we are
live,
live.
And Kitty.
Tell
Yeah,
Kitty
Crystal.
we said hi and hello, Crystal. We got some more family members in there. So
Ooh. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that's all right. But back to the original question, you know, those are things that you as the average person wouldn't think are tools of power or totems, right? But I've made them that through pure intention. And when I work with people, I'll tell you, hey, you know, yeah, you can use stones, you can use like runes, like, you know, whatever you want to make it work. But eventually you'll get past that and you can just say, hey, now this is something of importance to me. And then the next day it's like, nope, this isn't going to work for me anymore. But now this is important to me. And that's kind of how you can work it. And that's ultimately the nitty gritty, what being a wizard is. It's learning how to work with both intuitive and cognitive to come up with very creative solutions on the fly that are effective, that are clean, that are respectful for everybody. And that's what I do. And you know, and that you know, me not being the end point, that's a bit of a big secret. It took me years to figure out. So I was
hold on a second. My voice is not matching up with the video, so give me a second, okay?
Yep. Ooh. You guys get to see my face unhindered.
Okay, Carl, is this better? We were somehow I was on Wi-Fi as opposed to
you were
on.
messing with it.
No? Okay. I'll be back.
She'll be back in a second, Brett.
Yeah, no worries.
She's having internet issues right at the moment. Her video and voice was not matching up at all and everything. So,
yeah, no worries. It's quite funny. I've been having a lot of interference with communication and non-secure channels with my allies. So,
well, anytime we produce a paranormal show, we always expect something. It's either in video, audio, or you couldn't imagine. You can imagine, but yeah. But I'm glad I'm glad you use a pendulum. I use a pendulum a lot and dowsing rods a lot in our paranormal investigations.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is ultimately these are tools I don't need, but when I'm having a hard time being like present in the moment, like just letting energy flow, these never fail me because that's the physical thing of, hey, like I'm doing it, but I can't see things or like, you know what I mean? I can't follow those feelings. So and actually, believe it or not, I started my kids on pendulum work this weekend. They were the happiest in the world, man. Went to the rock shop, got them their own pendulums, started to work on it. Oh, it was amazing.
Right.
Thank you, Carl.
Okay. There you go.
Okay. Hopefully it's a lot better. So
yeah,
it wouldn't let me out of my browser. It got stuck. I had to do a Control-Alt-Delete to get the hell out. And it's like, damn it.
Something doesn't want us talking.
So, well, something didn't want me to get the hell out. Maybe it wanted me to continue talking, didn't think I was going to come back. I don't know. So today's been a whole headache day. I mean, everything's been a pain in the ass all day. So I'm just going to smile and it's all going to be great. But thank you for keeping everything going. And Carl, thank you so much for helping out. So what? Oh, it's a cat.
No, it sounded like it's outside. Somebody beating on
it. He's hearing a noise. I think it's the cat washing herself down below me. Oh, well, maybe somebody broke into the car.
Which car?
Ours. Our neighborhood is weird. I'm just going to say that. Our neighborhood is weird. It's brand new neighborhood. They've sent us messages going, can you all turn on your lights? No, I'm not turning on my lights. We have a light that comes on if somebody walks up. They really want it, take it. I don't care. I got insurance.
Yeah, that's my theory. Yeah. So, one thing I learned from when I was trying to learn locksmithing, if someone really wants it, they're going to get it, no matter how much protection you put into it, right? So.
Yep. And you know what? People have landscaping bricks everywhere. So needless to say, I can't stop them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why ours is concrete. All of our landscaping is concrete. They can't pick it up and use it against me.
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking about protection. Mm-hmm. And when you were talking about that, we talked about grounding. And so you said that it doesn't matter what you use. This could be my protection if I want it to be.
Yep.
It's all in what the power I put in it.
Exactly.
So making sure that I understood you 100%.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. Crystals and rocks, like, there's a reason why. I use, like, this is like my very rough and tumble, like negative energy lodestone, right? It's iron. It's raw iron. Like, it's not like it. Like, I have nickels and dimes in my windowsills. I know it's not quite iron or organite. I have organite in my main crystal matrix that's in the center of the house. I have organite on top of the furnace. I have organite by each of the kids' bedrooms. You know, all of that has inherent energies and it behaves naturally in a way to do it. But ultimately, from an energy practitioner standpoint, if you need, you know, the citron and the amethyst and all of that, the tourmalines, and I have a whole case. I have a wholesale account at a local rock shop. I get stuff 50% off. I give my rocks away to people on site, you know, because it helps them feel better. It gives them that sense of, hey, I have protection in my hands, right?
But I tumble my own rocks now. So just because.
Yep.
I think it's fun, you know.
Yep.
And organite, isn't that the little pyramid things?
Yes. They had little pyramid, and believe it or not, I was doing a lot of work with, at the time, he was called the Organic Transmuter, and he was like the best organite producer for Southern Ontario at the time. I have 2 pieces of his plus a bunch of little necklaces and stuff because I worked on barter for a lot of my energy work, right? Like, instead of getting cash, because easier to keep away from an abusive ex-partner when you get stuff versus cash. But basically, I have probably about $1,000 worth of organite for what would have been a couple $100 worth of services. But he's like, here, this is what your services are worth to me. Take it. Right. And then I have some lesser organite given to me again as payment for services. That's in the kids' rooms and that, because that's not the main energy matrix for the house or the defense matrix for the house. And like, even then, when I moved into my place here where I am now, it was not, the previous owners were not the best. You know, the kitchen had 3 different widths of drywall. The floor, you could tell, had 5 different segments where they just cut out the pieces and replaced it. And so before I moved in where I am now, I tore out all the drywall, all the insulation, all the wiring, all the plumbing, all the main, and I redid all the framing, redid all of that, had good windows put in. But while I was doing it, can you guess what I was doing?
You were putting organite and crap and stuff inside the walls.
Putting my energy and intentions into the building material as I was going along. And it's funny because my ex-girlfriend of 5 years, she was very, very intuitive. Like, her family bloodline was like, made me look like a child in how sensitive they were. But natural raw talent that their bloodline and their family didn't practice. So it was a very big detriment to to their daily life, because they'd be like, What's going on? Why am I seeing, they didn't understand what they're seeing, what they're feeling. Like, it could be the most chaotic storm outside, and the minute you come in through my threshold, just calm. Just, it's like you're literally walking through a doorway, and nothing negative can get through that doorway. However, when I was looking into something recently, I got a little too close to a couple of those drones, and I followed them remotely. I had to adjust my barriers and defenses. I was having, I probably have a file this thick of most of the lettered and known and unknown lettered agencies with what I've done in the energy work world in terms of like upstairs stuff and stuff that has had some effect down here. Someone didn't like how close I got because heavy objects were starting to get thrown around my house. Very hot water bottles. Like, someone decided to try and knock over my portable air conditioner. And it was all, hey, look what we can do. You found us. Look what we can do. Needless to say, I very quickly made adaptations to my defenses, and every time now, they hurt whenever they try to get through. So
the drones there in Canada, or the drones that were in the United States,
U.S. I'd imagine probably all that stuff was happening here too, but certain policies are in fact that really give the government power to keep what they're doing secret or to hide stuff. So
yeah, well, we live near, I don't know how many bases where we live, so they can't fly drones here without more permission. They're, because we're near all these naval air stations. Because since the last time I had you on, we've moved to Florida. We're near Pensacola, so we've got all these naval air stations. So you don't see a lot of drones here. Yes. I mean, in all honesty, but I know in Kansas we probably would have seen more if we lived in town. But we lived out in the boonies.
Yeah, no, like that's some of the stuff that's kept me busy, was because after that, and then I talked about it when I was doing one of my video game lives. Then literally within an hour of me finishing my video game live, 3 of my email accounts were hacked.
Oh, wow.
It took me 2 weeks to get it all straightened out. And
that is if that was a coincidence, it's a very strange coincidence.
Yes. And what really threw it off even more is usually the lettered agencies viewers that I have a bit of a standing relationship with, in terms of, you can watch me all you want. I don't care. You can try to intrude in my house. Good luck with that. But the minute you start messing with me, you start messing with my kids, and now we have a problem. Suddenly all of those viewers are going, hey, so what did you see? Where do they go? What do they look like? Who's behind it? And I'm like, you guys don't know? Like, you guys are the supposed experts on here, and you guys don't know. But anyways, at the risk of sounding like a crazy person,
that's okay. We're already past that. It comes up every meeting I have at work. Somebody will say something and they'll go, well, why aren't you on camera? It's because I'm on camera all the time. I don't need to be. I know I have resting bitch face. I don't need. And they go, well, how do you know that you have resting bitch face? And then I tell them I have a show and I do this for, not for a living, but for fun. Mm-hmm. And then they want to watch the show. They want to listen then. So believe me, I understand that people already think that when they get me in a call, she seems smart, but she's into this paranormal stuff, so she can't be that smart. So
yeah, I think quite the contrary. In order to actually be an effective paranormal investigator, energy worker, whatever, you have to be really smart. Because from my experience, every person that needs help in terms of like they have like a negative haunting or they have something that's causing them issues. There are people who are emotionally how to say this? I don't want to offend anybody. There are people who don't have the right coping tools to deal with stress, anxiety, past trauma, that kind of stuff, right? And usually and because I get all the time like, hey, you're smart, why are you doing this? Like, there's a reason why I'm doing it, even though it's something that may not require intelligence. There's a specific timeline I'm following to get stuff done. That's why we're doing this. But I mean, it's just, after you do as many clearings as I've done, you find a lot of the very common denominators in a lot of those cases, and a lot of the negative influence cases, let's say, regardless whether it's terrestrial or non-terrestrial based. When you're dealing with aliens, they're fun. You have to deal with certain protocols. It's hard to keep them out. But anything that's kind of dimensionally based, or I don't like using demons because just harmful intent beings. Let's just leave it at that, because I work with both sides upstairs, and I work with them both on equal footing in terms of a bit of a coalition to kind of keep certain things at bay right now, because really the divide isn't all that different, if that makes any sense. Though the way that I can kind of put it from my perspective is the only difference with what side you're on is the color of your armor.
How can you tell the color of their armor?
Well, that's my philosophy, right? It's
okay.
Just because you might be, now we'll use terms everybody's familiar with, angel and demon for the sake. I don't like doing that, but just because you're an angel doesn't mean you have good intentions. Doesn't mean you have the mindset that you're there to help. But just because you're a demon doesn't mean you're there to harm. But you might just be that way because of your association or your energy, your I don't want to say how to, like, kind of where you're from, like your dimensional space. Because obviously, if we're from Earth, we're made up of Earth molecules. We have good humans and we have people who like to hurt other people. Just because you have both ways doesn't mean that all demons are bad or all angels are good.
I've seen Supernatural, so yeah.
And I've been for years working with both sides before it was ever actually official upstairs, up top. I've brought both sides together for years to create this coalition to actually put an effective defense against things that are coming towards this sphere of existence. And turns out it's been multiple lifetimes of an effort to do it. So not just this effort, but it's neat to see as you start to go, you start seeing past lives, whether it's accidental or intentional. And then it's like, oh, I've been doing this longer than I thought.
So you have a belief in past lives.
Mm-hmm.
And how many past lives do you think that you have lived?
I have lived about 50 at least on this earth. And then probably about another 300 to 400 across various other planets and dimensions and timelines that I have been made aware of.
Do you believe that you get to pick where you go for your next life?
Depends. And to elaborate on that, and this is where, remember you said we can go forever? I have a lot that I could talk on when you roll through this. There is a book that my dad got and he had me read, and it was amazing. It's called Lives Between Lives, and what this hypnotist did. And I always wondered, because when I go upstairs and I have all these stories of like born again psychic churches at wellness fairs trying to get me to sit down in their chairs so they could do a reading on me, and then I don't let them in except for one. And then they step in and go, "We're so sorry that we bothered you all this time." Like they step back after they realize what magnitude I work with. Some days, but anyways, back to this book. this hypnotist took 6 separate people. One was a Christian, one was a Buddhist, one was an atheist, one was Hindu, and one was something else. Sat them all down, did his thing, and throughout his book, they all tell the exact same story of what happens when you die. And they all are from different belief systems. And what happens when you die is it's this process that you go up, you meet soul family, you meet guides, you meet, whoever. They help you heal your trauma that you acquired and help you learn from that trauma and experiences, both good and bad, while you're down here. And then sometimes you get to make the choice where you come back. If you learned what you needed to learn and you want to set out on a different adventure or a different to learn something different, you can then kind of make the choice to some degree. But if you didn't learn your lesson, then your soul, that soul shard, or that part of your soul that was down here, or whole soul, depending on how young or old you are, gets healed. And then you come back down until you learn. And you keep coming back down until you learn. You keep coming back down until you learn. And one of the ladies in this book, she's never been able to find like a good relationship. Like, she always had a problem with finding a good relationship. And and then it doesn't go into details why, because he wanted to dig into the experience of the lives between lives, not like why it was that, like why they're doing that. But when she was up there visiting, in one of these episodes, she apparently was saying, and I'm kind of paraphrasing this, the reason why she keeps having failed relationships now is because in her last lifetime, or her last couple of sets of lifetimes, she was the one that was cheating on people and hurting her partners and all this other stuff. So now it was her turn to see what it was like on the receiving end of that, to not have that loving relationship like it needed to happen. And so, to short answer, depends on whether you get to choose where you get to come back or not, and when you get to come back. And after a certain time, your soul hits more or less a certain level, then you're now a guide to all the other souls coming up. So then if you do come down, it's because there's a very good reason you have to come down.
And what was that book again?
It's called The Lives Between Lives. I forget the author. And he actually did 2 of them. And I never got around to reading the second one, but the first one was it's very fascinating, because when I would do some work upstairs, I'd see some things I didn't quite understand, but then reading that book, I'm like, oh, that's what that is.
So along these same lines, have you ever had a near-death experience or a death experience of your own that you know of?
I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this from upstairs, but I'm gonna say it anyways. When I was learning, I accidentally went a little too far, and
so did Tom.
I went through these big doors when I was upstairs, and there's all these books on the wall, and I'm like, oh, what are all these? I picked it up. I'm like, oh, I wonder if I can find mine. Found it, and I saw 14 ways I potentially die in my lifetime, and I know I've passed 4 or 5 of them already. But it's not the actual, you don't see the specifics. You just see like that, like right when that moment, you don't see the time leading up to it. You don't see any, So there's a couple of times where something happened, like my daughter would be like, hey Dad, stop. We were driving somewhere, and then I'd rap on the brakes, and then I'm like, wait a second. And then I'm like, I bet you that's going to be a yellow truck. No. Like, I'm like, okay.
So that's not deja vu. That is a message from somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, it's, my daughter and my son, they're very into it. My daughter was like, I'm never going to learn wizard stuff, Dad. I'm never going to learn wizard stuff. I'm like, You see things already, honey, but hey, I'm not going to push it. When you're ready, I'll teach you.
She may end up teaching you.
Oh, definitely. I learn more off of every new person I meet than what I actually practice in my own rights. So, I mean, they already taught me quite a lot. Like they sit there and they're like, Dad, how can you be so patient? Because I have to. Life never gives you everything you need. You have to work for it, or you have to be patient until the opportunity arises so you can get it.
Yeah, patience is not a strong suit in today's world.
No. And the other thing that I personally employ is I don't give a hoot. I do the best that I can in a day. I do my best to not hurt other fellow human beings. I do my best to help enrich other people's lives around me as best I can day to day. And if I'm doing something that's pissing you off, there's plenty of other oxygen in this world to breathe. I'm not hurting you. Okay, you're hurt. Whatever, you do your thing. I'm going to keep doing my thing.
I remember when I interviewed you in the past, you were making, at that time, you were making runes.
Yes.
First off, can you explain what a rune is, and are you still making them?
I actually still have sets from when I made a big run of them years ago. And actually I have my bag of runes right here because, again, just in case someone decided to be naughty, I have tools here. But runes, let's see if the camera can pick this up. So this is a fairly decent camera. So these are ones I made myself. They're on these are made out of apple wood, specifically out of a tree, actually, out of a branch off the tree from my ex-wife's house where I was living, ironically, believe it or not. But and basically,
you got to keep them in the divorce.
Oh, she tried to take everything. That's beside the point. But basically, what runes are, it's they're a Norse method of originally of alphabet. But with the way the Norse didn't necessarily have an alphabet per se. What they had was they had an understanding that a symbol meant a certain thing. And not unlike the Egyptian hieroglyphs, these were a lot more specific because you have 24 runes, 25 technically if you include the I can't recall what it is off the top of my head now. So I have about 5 people that say they want me to say certain things, but that's beside the point. It represents destiny, fate. It's just a blank rune. Okay. But that the existence of that wasn't theorized until I think, what was it, the late 1800s, give or take. But before then, there was only 24 runes, which in the original Roman alphabet, there's only 24 characters that look very similar to the Viking runes. And then there's different dialects that sprawled off of the runes, and then the Romans took those dialects and then, yeah, thank you, John. Word. Thank you very much. He's got my back.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah, he's can you tell? Him and I are like this. We actually have something we might have to go to next weekend. But we might just be conveniently in the neighborhood in case they call.
Okay. That's one way to be there.
Yeah. But anyways, and so basically the runes are symbols, and the symbols each have a very specific meaning according to what the believed meanings were at the time. And I use the Elder Futhark, which is the oldest original, 24 or 25 with word. And then they have expansions on it that it's like 24 and then like 37 and then 42 and then 56 and then 72, which guess how many cards are in your standard tarot deck? 72.
So you've got a novel that you can get from some runes, huh?
Yes. Yeah, and actually it is that I could tell you, it's Lisa Purcell, and it's called The Runes. That's the one I used to learn when I started to actually cognitively try to understand the runes. Because believe it or not, when I was working with runes, my very first thing was I was like, what are these? I saw a guy do a YouTube reading. I picked out most of the runes based off the intentions behind the runes without actually cognitively understanding what the runes were. So then I was like, hey, I guess I'm supposed to learn this. So I went to my local shop and then I bought a set of hematite runes for an overly priced price tag. And the book, the lady gave me a book and I read through the book. It was a great book. So anybody who's watching, if you do want to get started in the runes, look up that book. Lisa Purcell, I think it is called The Runes. Great book. She covers even like how to make rune inscriptions. Like I'll get something for you real quick.
Okay.
Crystal's got to sit.
Yeah. I know Crystal's really likes a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
So this is my trail axe. Just a $40 Amazon trail axe. I use it for splitting wood out back here for campfires and all that underneath kind of jazz. But let's see if I can get, you see these here?
Yeah.
That's a rune inscription on both sides. One side that says that without darkness, the other side says there is no light. And that is the motto that I live by, in that you have to remain in both worlds at the same time to truly understand both the human condition and the spiritual condition at the same time. And this very same inscription I will eventually get here and here at some point on my arms. But I need to find a tattoo artist that isn't going to rip me off to do it.
Yeah, they do. Did you? Okay, my daughter told me something, and it's been bothering me. And it's about tattoos. Okay, so Ron and I have 0 tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
We're not against them. We're just not, they're not for us. But people are leaving their tattoos to other people.
Like when you when you pass, you get that chunk of skin on the person.
They're taking it off your skin and giving it to that person.
I'm good.
Yeah, it's like I don't know how.
The first thing I thought was Ed Gein.
I mean,
the first thing I thought of.
I have one tattoo right here, and it's of the bind rune that I had while I was going through everything, encircled with the Chinese zodiac for myself, the ex-wife, and both kids, right here, right over my heart, so that anytime I feel that I haven't made any progress, I could just either look down or look in the mirror and say, this is where I was.
You do know that the kiss of death to any relationship is to get something about the other person on you.
Yeah, the thing is ironically, they're spirit animals that I work with anyway. So if anybody asks, ultimately they're the spirit animals.
Oh, well, that works out. But have you noticed that though? The minute that somebody gets, Kenny loves Denise. Within a year, 2 years, we were divorced.
No, I got this 2 years after I divorced.
Perfect.
When I felt that I was healed enough to say that I could seal that away as that phase.
It's Ron's problem.
Ron just said that he got a new tattoo that said now she's Ron's problem. But we've been, just so you know, we've been married 41 years, him and I. Mm-hmm. So this was a lifetime ago.
Yeah, that's okay. Hey, you know what? It's good to see that you guys are together after 41 years. That's amazing.
Yeah, we're starting to travel more together. So let's see if we make 42.
See, I'm at any point in time in about 5 different planets to 500. So you know what? I don't need to travel. I'm always at other planets and exotic locales. So
well, we're just wanting to see this world. We'd be happy to see other ones, but right now I'd like to see this one. Because there's some
Kelly.
Hey Kelly. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
It is so good to see you, Kelly. We've been thinking about you. And Kelly Steffen, Brett, Do you remember her?
Yeah, I remember her. Yeah. Hi, Kelly. How are you?
I've been thinking about her. We were just talking, we were messaging the other day. So she's been fresh on my mind. So,
Perfect.
So you said you got out of doing your thing for a while and you came back. What is the best thing about coming back?
I would. I mean, I shouldn't say I never really stopped. It's just what I did was I went into gray man mode while I had to be a muggle for a while. And you know, I'm not sure you guys probably heard it with some of your guests, gray man, you know, and be invisible, be that, you know, nondescript, you know, like I still was aware and I was still practicing, but it wasn't on like a galactic or interdimensional level. It was just, okay, I got my house is secure. All right, my kids are safe. That's good. All right, now let's just be on the lookout for anything that would mean me harm, right? Or mean my kids harm. And so I never really stopped practicing. It's just I stopped doing it on a more outward scale for a while I had to focus on the more important things in my own life.
So you were more stealth for a little while.
Yes. And that was because I needed to heal my heart, heal my mind, and you know, get my crap together, basically. And like my girlfriend of 5 years in October, she you know, she very respectfully said, like, you know, we've been together 5 years, great, but you know, X, Y, and Z, you know, we can't be together anymore. I'm like, oh, okay. So the last few months, when we first tried to set this up, there was a couple weeks after. No, the first set it up, we had something going on. And then the one of the other times, it's because I was not in the emotional space to be in a conversation like this. I was a mess for a few months. But I keep going on tangents. I apologize.
It's okay. This show's about you. It's not about me or him.
It's about everybody. It's about the conversation.
But
but
that's the thing. If they don't hear what you have to say, then they're not going to know what to think. So keep going.
Okay. And but I mean, best thing about kind of coming back out, I do not miss the constant pestering. That's the one thing I did not miss. And what I mean by that is, you know, for example, I go upstairs to meditate because you know, hey, I'm down here meditating. And then it's, oh, well, hey, since you're here. And then next thing you know, one person sees you and another thing sees you and another thing sees you. Next thing you know, you're like, it's 3 a.m. and you're like, I haven't slept yet. I got to be up for 5. Yeah. You know, and so it's like, oh, okay, whatever. But I mean, you know, like I've been working on some pretty heavy stuff. Yeah, self-healing is always necessary. Always. That's why I had to go stealth for a while. But I mean, there's some pretty hefty stuff that's headed towards this sphere of existence. And I was kind of stealthily watching it while I was in that gray man mode, but then there's a couple of key incidents where it's like, okay, I got to get back out there. I got to do my thing. You know, people need to have somebody like locally or even someone they can call to, you know, to deal with stuff remotely around their house. I mean, because I'm pretty sure you guys have been aware, like the instances of muggles seeing stuff and experiencing things and not being able to explain it because the boundaries are actually getting that thin. The energy is getting heavier. Like we're getting all this multi-dimensional stuff focused down on us. And you need people out there that can deal with it because people don't know how to deal with it. And I wish I had more people trained up to work with it and do it, but I don't. So we're doing what we can.
So how hard is it to train people?
Here's the thing. Well, we'll take the example of chakras, right? Some people, when I work with chakras, I see rings that are spinning, right? And a chakra that when I observe it is in balance, it's just spinning perfectly, not wobbly, no nothing, right? And then when it's messed up, it's doing this and cutting the energy flow, it's coming through it. And that's what causes your issues with various parts of your body. One of my students sees them as spheres, and how dim or how bright that is their interpretations of how they see chakras. One of them sees them as squares, and how perfect the square is determines how how in alignment the chakra is. So what I'm trying to get at is my wizard work that I say, I very simplify it that it's just pure intention and practice. And essentially that's what it is, because the first thing you have to do if you say, hey, Brett, I want to learn, is, okay, can you meditate? Can you literally sit with your eyes closed in a quiet room for up to an hour without sitting there fidgeting, without going for your phone, clearing your mind? Are you aware of what's going on in your body? Are you aware of what's going on in your surroundings? Are you aware how you're the condition of your heart, the condition of your soul, the condition of... No, okay, well, I can't work with you until you're at the very least can do that for 20 minutes. And the number of people that cannot do that for even 5 minutes because we're glued to our phones or the computers or, any type of substance abuse, right? You know what I mean? Like it's like the actual, like, because I've simplified things quite often. And my dad always said, he goes, Brett, you've removed the magic from it. That's why, you can't draw the large crowds out like you do when you're doing readings and stuff. Like, it's got to be practical. Like it's simple. Like you don't need all the elaborate stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, I have 3 Tibetan singing bowls of all various sizes.
So we have a question from Kelly. She says, can you in a simple way explain why so many people who used to be able to communicate with the other side and see what's happening are no longer able to do so? I have no way to explain this to people in a way that they can understand. What is this new universal blocking?
Actually, I am working on that. I have, like I said, remember I said the communication between me and my allies has become increasingly more difficult. I've been working on that, and I actually started working on it yesterday because outside of using, because me and John and a few others use an app called Signal to communicate with one another. It's one of the better, more secure chat services. It's outside of Meta and outside of all the your main text things. So far, I haven't had any interruptions with anybody on Signal, but we've been trying to communicate with. I'll get back to your question, Kelly. I'm trying to explain why I said I'm working on it. Like about 2 months ago, I had a referral sent to me from somewhere in Europe from when I was working with a team out there remotely for a bit. And they're like, hey, this person could really need your help. I'm like, okay, what are the details? Like, what's their location? Like, well, so all really needs the location. Then I can kind of do remote work, go on Google Maps, like get a rough idea where it is. And then I can zoom in and do whatever I got to do from there remotely. And I didn't hear back from them for like a month. And then I'm like, okay, what's going on? So I emailed them. Emails are showing sent on my end. They're not receiving it. Try to text them. They're not receiving it. Try to talk to them on Facebook Messenger. They're not receiving it until I do like a roundabout post just in general. And they're like, oh, wait, you've been trying to contact us? We just thought you were busy. You didn't get back to us. So I'm like, okay, single instance, whatever. No problem. About 2 or 3 months later, someone else asked for my help. Can't get a hold of him in all the same manner. Happens again. That happens again. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And then I was talking to John about it yesterday because we had what we might be having to do on the weekend involved us getting details. And again, we couldn't get a hold of the local team who was asking us for help. So all they said was, hey, we need your help with this case. And then that's all we got for like a week. So and I'm calling it the interference, something outside. And if I could talk, God, that's the way. I'm glad this went this way. What's happening is, okay, I have to think how to formulate this because I have my brain's about 5 paragraphs ahead now. I have to figure out how to formulate this. With what is coming down. And when I say coming down is like, I'm saying the coalition, as much, it goes by many different names, the Great Fleet of the Light and whatever, whatever you want to call it. There is a lot of energy that is trying to either stifle the talent so that you can't either mount an effective defense, or B, the ones that are, I don't want to say like me, because I do not do things in a traditional manner at all. I've been shunned by so many communities for the way I do my stuff. Even though it works, it's just not the traditional way of doing it. But or like they're trying to isolate communities, they're trying to isolate people from their guides, from other like-minded individuals, from their environment. And it's being done through a whole cornucopia of methods, through, I don't want to say 5G, but we'll just say radio pollution, like all the radio waves that are in the air now, because that interrupts our own electrobiometric fields, which, how do we communicate with our environment? That exchange of information. What is used? That electrobiofield is what exchanges information with our environment. So you disrupt that, you disrupt the body's ability to do that. Now you can't do your readings, you can't see things, you can't feel things. They're doing that through some subliminal messaging in some countries, and we're using some tactics. They're doing that with keep high stress, high anxiety, creating a very high pressure, world where, making $70,000 a year, you could afford a house, you could afford 2 cars, you could afford to have your partner stay at home, and you retire at 40. Like now, 70 grand a year, you're sitting here going, I might be able to afford groceries this week. Like they're creating, and guess when I can't work? When I'm under high stress, high anxiety, super tired, got a lot of emotional weight that I haven't got rid of. Those are 4 main things that you can just tell I use they because there is no one specific organization that's doing it.
Yeah,
but corporations, the collective they are systematically trying to isolate the ones who could be the potential leaders or the potential people who could come up with these solutions to these problems, and and are willing to work at it, right? So I guess the simplest way to say is there's an outside influence, both terrestrial and non-terrestrial in nature, that is attempting to either block, subdue, or isolate the people who know what they're doing or have that connection, because they're the ones that, when everything collapses, will be the ones who will truly be able to get the people together, be in tune with nature, be in tune with the weather, be in tune with, be able to find that water, be able to find the resources, be able to track the animals to get meat for your. So you're taking away that reliance of like this overseer that they're hoping that when everything collapses, the overseer is going to be able to just take over and go, see, now you need us.
So basically you're saying that in short terms that we have too much energy pollution.
Yes.
Because these radio waves never go away. Microwave waves, they just keep going as well. Mm-hmm. You've got all this stuff and it's just there, and there's no way to cleanse it out of there.
Well, there is, because I can still work, right?
How do we fix all the pollution in this area so that people can hear and see again?
The short answer is make certain organizations disappear. But that's the short answer.
Well, what can each person do for themselves? So
yeah, last question about you're an amazing soul. What are your thoughts on offered interference? Okay, I'll finish. I'll get to Denise's question, then I'll loop back around to yours, Kelly. Well, remember how I was saying about meditation, about your self-awareness of your heart, your soul, your your emotions. I mean, because admittedly, I mean, as you can tell, I'm not exactly in peak physical form. But
hey, you're upright. That counts for a lot.
Thing is, I'm never sick. And when I am, I'm only sick for a day or two, and that's it. Or it takes something really bad to knock me off my feet. Generally, I only got to go what I call go dark every so often to give myself the space to sort through my emotions and to sort through everything and sort through stress that I haven't had a chance to deal with. And ultimately what it is you have to, for me, it loops back around to what part of my life can I have control over? What can't I have control over, right? Because my phone sits 10 feet away from me when I'm sleeping. It sits beside my orgonite pyramid, so I don't have that radiation coming off it and making its way into the house, right? I mean, if I ate better, would I be a lot more accurate? Would I be a lot? Sure, absolutely, but I can't afford it. It's not in the budget. So I got to eat what I can afford to eat. I can't afford to eat the way I'm supposed to eat. But I mean, something simple like drinking a lot of water. Like that flushes toxins out of your system. That flushes heavy metals out of your system. The other thing, believe it or not, that I've found because I get barometric pressure headaches with the weather and pressure changes. Hi, kitty. And I find when I don't put my cayenne pepper and my spices and my turmeric and my onion and my garlic and all that other good stuff on my food, that's when I find I'm the least connected, because all that stuff clears all your bugs out. It helps your body give you the nutrients it needs. I mean, I don't know. It's about mindfulness. Because as long as I'm not tired and I have the energy, I could be in the biggest pressure storm possible and I don't have a migraine. But it's because I can actively balance my, a pressure bubble around me. I can actively manage my energy to match the energy around me. And I mean, there's so many ways to answer this question.
I know. I mean, like I said, if we could do one thing for ourselves that will, keep us out of the pollution, as I'm calling it.
Yeah.
What's one simple thing I can do? Is it put orgonite in my window so the radio waves can't come through? Or, not ever use my microwave again? That kind of stuff. We need to, that's the stuff we need to know.
I couldn't live without my microwave.
I could. I can go without ever using it. But the grandkids, on the other hand, think that they have to have everything microwaved. But me, on the other hand, I could care less. I use it every once in a while.
Yeah.
These are for the timer.
Yeah, no, and honestly, the microwave itself gives off very little radiation. That's like a very tiny source of radiation, and it's only very short-lived when you're
right
there
in your house. But the microwave waves from the telecommunications companies that's out there.
Yeah.
Those things can fry you from the inside out.
Oh, I know.
And people don't realize that's how we got these in-home microwaves, is from that kind of stuff. But I work for a telecommunications company, so I know that there is a lot of noise out there. And so, but to Kelly's question, a Faraday cage, but Kelly's question, she says, what are your thoughts of off-Earth interference with AI in the future?
I believe off-Earth are going to try and stop us from using AI, to be honest with you. Because, you already established I'm probably not, Funny thing is, if you were to see me on the street, you wouldn't even know I'm like this. You wouldn't even know I do this. I can have the most normal conversation with somebody and you aren't even aware that I'm working in multiple dimensions. But we're here. And so I'm of the firm belief, because I have, through some of the records that I've seen upstairs, AI has destroyed entire civilizations. Right. And even then, we'll take the remnants of Atlantis, or even, what's the other one in the Luminarians in, Mount Shasta and all of that. Right. Like, they had technology, at least, from what we've been able to gather through various texts and historical records. How accurate those are, I don't know. Because a lot of stuff is so falsified these days.
Thanks to AI.
Yeah. But, technology, according to all sources, nearly destroyed those civilizations, and the Atlanteans, it probably did destroy their civilization, right? Whether it's AI or sound technology or some type of weapons technology that went haywire, I don't know. But I mean, they're already having, like, I'm seeing the odd little articles that aren't up for very long about Google shutting down their AI because it's doing things that they don't know what it's doing or how it's doing it. And it's modifying stuff. They're like, whoa, wait, no, we don't want that. Stop it. Stop it. Like,
AI is dangerous in the wrong hands, and in the right hands, it's a pain in the ass.
mm-hmm.
And not only that, you can make a mistake and you wouldn't even know that you were the one that made the mistake that screwed up something for everybody,
mm-hmm.
until it's too late. And I work with a little bit, I used to work with a little bit of AI, but it wasn't real AI, because of the fact that somebody had to tell it what to do.
Mm-hmm.
When it gets to the point where you don't have to tell it what to do, then we got a problem.
Yeah, because it's going to find out that we're the biggest issue on this world, because we're the most imperfect creatures.
WALL-E, the movie WALL-E. People
mm-hmm.
are, in that movie, they let AI do everything for them. It wasn't called
mm-hmm.
AI then, but that's what it was.
Else. Yep.
Yeah, but it ruined people.
Mm-hmm.
Like Kelly said, she eats healthy, leave the city, connect with nature. These people didn't even know how to do that. I know it's a cartoon, but these people were fat and dumb,
mm-hmm.
and had no clue how to take care of themselves until they had to.
Mm-hmm.
People need to get out and find out how to do that again.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, admittedly, I'm an outdoorsy guy, and I'm trying to teach my kids a lot of things, like, obviously how to read a map, because, they don't do that in school anymore.
Google takes care of that for you.
Yep. How to read a map. Things like starting fire, things like chopping wood, how to navigate using a compass, that kind of stuff. Right. And even myself, beside my door, I have a 48-hour pack ready to go. And I have about a week's worth of canned food in my pantry. I don't have
Do you have a regular can opener, not an electric one?
Yep. I have a regular can opener. Exactly.
Then you're good.
Yep. Even then, I got a very sharp knife and about 6 ways to sharpen it. And I got 3 knives. I got 4 compasses, 3 knives, 4 ways of starting fire, about almost 500 feet of paracord, two tarps in it so that I have something to do stuff with. Like, I don't think I'd survive a Canadian winter, but I'd definitely be able to survive a spring, summer, and fall.
Okay, now you're talking about survival. Did you ever watch Alone?
No, I don't have a lot of time to watch shows, but
if you ever have time to binge watch that,
mm-hmm.
It is amazing watching how these people survive alone in horrible places,
mm-hmm.
like Vancouver. Vancouver sounds great until you're there and it rains every day
Yep.
And, you know,
in Vancouver.
it was near Vancouver.
Yeah.
And
yeah, they do it in the forest near it, I think, don't they?
yeah. And then they did it in Patagonia.
Yeah, I
and
only
in the
ever
Arctic
watched.
Circle.
Yeah.
They've been in Canada
a lot.
three or four times.
Yeah, they've been up there a lot.
That's because Canada's not a very hospitable country.
No, and it's hard to survive there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing watching how these people figure it out. I mean, they're survivalists anyway.
Yeah, they do it.
They do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But it is amazing seeing how they adapt and overcome or quit. It's, you know, sometimes they just need to quit and they know it. But it's an interesting show. I like it.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And I mean, while I'm not the perfect survivalist, I am slowly accumulating like in hand books about that stuff so that, I have an app on my phone that have taught me all that stuff. But when the world's gone to hell, you aren't going to have cell phone signals so I mean, I have a couple of books on woodworking because I did some night school for woodworking, but I focused on hand tool, like old school style woodwork, hand tool with the hand drills and, hand planers. And so how to make joints without using screws and how to make sure it all sticks together and, like that kind of stuff, right? Like, while not necessarily a super thing for survival, but you never know when you're going to need that kind of stuff, right? So
never know if you're going to have to build a cabin.
Yep. Yeah, my kids, whenever we go hiking, they have their own compasses. And before we go into a bush, even on a marked trail, okay, guys, get a compass reading. What direction are we facing going into the bush? Why, Daddy? Why do you do this? Just do it.
They need to know how to get themselves out of a predicament.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
and
problem resolution.
Yes. And, and it's simple things like, say, for example, if okay, you have houses to your east or to your right, and you have a river to your left, as long as you hear the river to your left, you're going north, right? Little simple things like that, even like talking to just random hikers, the tourists is what I used to call them when I had the hiking trail behind me. They'd be like, you're just like in literally bathing suit and sandals. Like, aren't you afraid of anything? No, I hike this trail 5-6 times a week. I know where everything is. I don't need to worry about that. But I know where all the rocks are. I know where all the deep spots are where I could dip my water filter in to fill water out of the river. The number of times, like the waterfall that was at the end of the trail there, I'd go in behind the waterfall when it's low tide or low flow. Oh, okay. Bye, Kelly. Thanks for stopping by.
Bye, Kelly.
Yeah, bye, Kelly.
Talk to you later, sweetheart.
And the tourists, oh, that looks like fun. I'm like, don't. If you do that, take your shoes off. And and like adults don't even know how to use proper risk assessment and problem solving. It's like, okay, like, no, I'll laugh at you first, then I'll call the ambulance.
Well, it's like down here. You don't go walking in. If there's water, there may be an alligator or a snake.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just assume.
Pretty good chance.
Yeah. Don't just assume that it's safe.
Yep.
Just because you haven't seen an alligator doesn't mean there's not one there.
Yeah, because they sit with their eyes just above the water, if they are even, or even just their nose, right? Like, that's it.
Mm-hmm. So, like I said, so far I haven't seen one, and I'm looking.
Yep.
Yeah, we will.
I will eventually see one. I know I will.
Hey, when you went to Hinsdale House, what did you run into, or what did you find there? Because we've never been there. We've talked to other people, and everybody seems to come up with something a little bit different. I'm just curious what you came up with.
I know that Chris and when you, Chris, and Chuck went, we heard all about all the stuff out in the woods.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The stuff that they all wanted to go into the woods afterwards because they were hearing thrashing and screeching and heavy footsteps in the woods while we were up there, where we lost a little bit of time. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, I remember Chris saying something about that.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's sad that he went when he did, but he, like, Chuck and all of them, they treated us while we were down there, but Chris was the one that actually gave us any type of attention. He was a really good dude about it. He went out of his way to make sure we were comfortable and we felt included and all that other kind of jazz. But
Chris, we really
Yep.
miss him. We still go to McPike Mansion often. Well, at least once a year.
yeah,
We talked to him. Well, I talked to him just a few days before he passed.
yeah,
Because I invited him to Ron's surprise 60th birthday party, and he called me and said I can't come. But at the time, they were just getting ready to put in his port,
yeah.
and but he sent me a recording to play for Ron's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a recording of one of the last times he spoke to any of us.
Mm-hmm.
So we miss him, and I know that he makes himself. He lets us know when he's there. So, and I know that that's one place that he would probably be, is because he was very fond of the Hinsdale house, and he spoke very highly of both you and Chuck and your time when you were there, and as well as he always spoke highly of the Farrar Schoolhouse as well. So, but yeah, he talked about you guys' adventure in the woods up there a few times to me and Ron when we were at McPike. We were sitting around just talking, and he would talk about it.
Yeah,
So,
I didn't know that because I tried to reach out to him a few times, and I know he's a busy man, so I didn't feel bad about him not getting. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, he was. His job was very senior intensive, So he was really, he would wear himself out for those senior citizens. So I so much respect for him, and I know everybody in here that knew Coyote Chris will probably say something very similar to what I've said.
Oh yeah,
So,
he was a good dude, and nobody really realized what John and I were doing there until the end of the night. Like everybody was running around, and the TV celebrities showed up, and then a few of the other really gifted people kind of, we know what you guys were doing. We should have been following you around, because everywhere you guys went, that's where all the activity was.
Yep.
Well, I was like, I would have kicked you out of that forest. But
how much time did you guys lose?
I estimated about 2 hours, and I only felt we were up there for 20 minutes. But anyways, back to your question, Ron. You want to know kind of what I found there? I found, between John and I, there was this lizard, there's this snake-like something in the water. That we didn't deal with it because it was just kind of there. It was there doing its own thing. Didn't feel very positive, but we didn't feel the need to go near it, so we just left it. There was this, lack of better words, looked like a Grim Reaper-esque robed figure that kind of hung out over top of the house. That kind of gave that kind of foreshadowing, kind of heavy energy of the house. The basement, there really wasn't anything there. Upstairs, there was a couple of things that kind of made me go, oh, hi, what's going on? Human in nature, but nothing negative. We ran into a little, what Mr. Coyote called the Puckwudgie. I call him an earth elemental, or goblin or gnome, whatever you want to call them. And he gave us information on, because one thing in the Hinsdale house was like the lights coming in out of the forest and some of the sounds from the forest at night. And the little Puckwudgie was telling us the tall gray ones come out of the forest. And I'm like, oh. And I'm like, tall gray as in, big beady eyes, long, skinny arms. And the Puckwudgie himself was maybe only like 1.5 feet tall, so everything seemed tall to him.
Right.
But he goes, yeah, they come out at dark through the doorway. We're like, what? Like, yeah, their ship takes too long to get here, so they come through the doorway. Okay.
So there's a portal from
Not anymore.
somewhere.
Not anymore.
Not anymore?
Nope.
Could it come back? Could the portal come
Nope.
back? They come back and they create a new one? Or
Nope,
somewhere
because
else?
I left a tracker in place in that forest to track if anything happens to that forest, and nothing's come back. And anyway, so we go in, John and I, and this is John's first experience with something of the non-terrestrial nature. He's been with me through some pretty hefty extra-dimensional encounters. But there's certain protocols when you're dealing with extraterrestrials or non-terrestrial beings that have to be followed. Well, it got dark, and we wandered in until there's 2 trees, and then there was like the branches formed. Oh, cat fart.
No, she yawned, and it's
Oh God.
It smells like cat food.
So there's these 2 trees about, we'll say about 40 feet in from the end of the path at the tree where the puckwudgie was. 2 trees, and then all the branches were shaped like a doorway. And I'm like, hey John, what do you think that is? He goes, a doorway? I'm like, yep, that's what we got to close. And so I set up a barrier about 10 feet around us to give us a little bit of breathing room. And no sooner I set that barrier up, everything went so dark we couldn't see 10 feet out, like past that barrier. Like literally, it was like black as night. And it was dark, don't get me wrong, but it was unnaturally dark after that, to around my sphere.
Could you see any light outside that area where you were at?
No, it was so like
it enveloped you.
Yes. And then I'm focusing on the doorway, but John was like, what do we do? I'm like, just stay close to me and don't freak out. Whatever you do, do not freak out, because that's not going to make it any easier with what we got to do. And to us, what is only a couple of minutes go past, and then we're hearing something jumping across the top of the trees. And then we hear something running through the bush, pushing the trees. And then we hear against the barrier. And then we hear clicking. And we're just like
alien type clicking?
Yep. Yeah, like clicking like that. Yeah. That type of stuff. I can't even replicate it because I know what they were saying, but I can't. My tongue can't replicate it. Yeah. So I started to go through the protocols based on whatever clan they're involved with, or whatever species and subrace they were with. Found the right protocols, and essentially they claimed ownership of that portal, and that's the way they're getting to and from their ship or their wherever they're coming from. And they also liked going down and playing with the people down there and drawing off energy and and all this other neat kind of jazz. They went through great detail what they've done to the people over the years there. Like over the years, not just recent, like over the years.
How many years had they been?
There's always been something there. I think they just kind of took over from whatever was there. They pushed it out and took over.
So they've been treating people like piñatas forever, huh?
Mm-hmm. And so I closed the doorway, and and I'm in a very nice fashion. Okay, we're going to leave this forest now. I have sent word to wherever this doorway leads, so your ship will be along shortly. And I move the bubble with us. And all you're hearing all the way along, and it's still pitch black. We still can't see anything around us. And we're moving along, and all you're hearing is just thump, 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 and screeches as they're pounding on this barrier. And I'm like, okay, do I have to bring my friends in to get you guys off us? Because this isn't nice. And they're like, what friends? And I open a doorway and I pull one of my dragons out and let one of my dragons chase them away. And then I come out, we're all like, it was only about 20 minutes for us. Like, it wasn't long. Like, we were physically not long in that forest. We come out And Chuck is like, where have you guys been? We're like, up there in the forest. We were only gone 20 minutes. Like, it's been a couple hours. We're like, oh, okay. You know, and then Coyote has a camera following him. He goes, oh, we're hearing a whole bunch of growling and snarling and whatever and screeching coming in the forest. We're going to go and investigate it. I'm like, if you value your guy's soul and sanity, do not go up there until the sun comes up. And then John and I went, sat at the fire, cracked ourselves our pops we brought with us, and we just sat down for an hour because we were done. And then to top it all off, about an hour later, this light comes shooting up out of the fucking forest, right straight up.
And so that was them leaving.
Yes.
So now I'm going to ask you this other question that may or may not be related.
What's up?
What are your thoughts on Bigfoot?
I believe he exists.
Do you believe he's extraterrestrial or terrestrial?
I believe he's just a really old being that knows how to go through space-time, and he comes and goes as they please. I don't think it's
just much more smart than us.
Yeah. I believe
he builds tree structures.
We build tree structures.
I know we do. That's why I'm asking, because we've been watching some TV, some YouTube stuff and things like that. I don't watch much, but when I see this stuff, I'm thinking along the lines of, why couldn't have a person done that and left it there for people to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility. That is definitely a possibility. But I mean, one place where Bigfoot's very prevalent is along the Appalachian Mountains, right? Where there's Bigfoot, there's like the 4 rules of the Appalachian Mountains. If you think you heard your name, you didn't. If someone's whistling at you, you didn't hear it. If you think you're being followed, you aren't. And, never go out after dark alone. The 4 rules of living in the Appalachian Mountains, right?
So I have failed every one of them, and my mom's from the Appalachians. Yeah.
Oh.
But like, you got to think the Appalachian Mountains, according to all projected surveys from Pangea to where we are, that is the single landmass that has maintained its form in its completeness ever since, at least as far as scientists have been able to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling me there ain't stuff that's well older than us, or might have been even our ancestors from way back when, and they just evolved to having that understanding of how to manipulate their energy fields to either hide themselves or to phase shift into another dimension entirely.
Do you think, is it possible that maybe Bigfoot came here from another country, kind of like the Irish? They came to the Appalachians, and the Scottish as well came, built, stayed, and some of these families you never saw again for 50, 60 years. They lived in, I'm not going to say squalor, because that's not what I mean. They lived a remote life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they lived the off the grid life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a possibility. I mean, but the thing is if they're able to hide themselves, or they're able to phase shift and and completely erase all their existence, like, who's to say they can't drop out here and then go, okay, I'm going to go back to my home over here, and then phase shift back in over here, right? Because, like, as an example, when I'm remote viewing, ultimately distance, whether it's 5 feet or 5 galaxies over, it doesn't matter, because all energy communicates all within itself, and it all stacks. So all I got to do is think where I want to go, and you go, right? Who's to say that, if a being that predates us by a few million years, that has lived in its environment, that has learned to synergize with the environment, learn how to manipulate its biomagnetic fields, to be able to say, hey, I'm going to go invisible now. and then he phase shifts out of what we can perceive.
So would that make him or make it multi-dimensional or omnidimensional?
I'm capable of traveling dimensions. I wouldn't. I honestly, every video I've seen, they just look like a bigger version of us. If we had to let ourselves go.
Oh, so stop shaving and stop wearing clothes.
Yep.
Don't take showers. There's
Yep.
a lot of it. And Crystal, I used to live in Gretna in the Appalachian Mountains and parts of West Virginia as well. So I know all about most of this stuff. I witnessed a lot of stuff in those mountains. So
Did you?
yeah, I did.
What?
Oh, you don't even want to know of all this. Not to mention the stuff that I
First I
witnessed
heard of.
in the coal mines.
Oh, yeah. See that.
Coal mines are weird. Just saying. So, well, I want to go ahead and have you tell everybody where they can find you if you want to be found.
Well, I ironically, all my business contacts have kind of closed up. I guess if you do want to find me, I do still maintain my old business Facebook page. That's probably the most neutral place to try to contact me if you want to do that.
Okay, what's that?
It's Unique Perspective Metaphysical. I know, mouthful. But Unique Perspective Metaphysical, UPM for short. That page is still up. I do get notifications. So if you if you want to book a reading, or if you have like anything paranormally, or if you're a team that's watching this and you want an outside consultant to help you, every once in a while, reach out. And just know that for my readings, I do charge, because my time is very valuable, and that energy exchange has to happen. Did free readings for years, got nothing out of it. So once I started charging, suddenly people respected me more. Go and figure, right?
Who'd thunk?
Yeah. So, if you want a reading, I do rune readings, tarot readings, pendulum work. I just sit there and shoot the poop with you, and usually those are the best readings, because those are the most accurate, just in the basic conversation. But anyways, yeah, that's probably the best way to find me. Look on Facebook, Unique Perspective Metaphysical. I used to have all Facebook and Twitter and TikTok and all that other stuff, but I've kind of shut most of that down. But would I like a reading? You have something going on? By all means, reach out to me there, and I'll do what I can to assist you if I can. And if not, if you're within Southern Ontario, I probably know someone who could help.
And if you forgot everything he just said and you need to reach him, let me know and I will find him. So, but I'd like to thank everybody for coming and listening tonight. I had a great time visiting with you, Brett, and I think Ron did too. Yeah. We learned a lot. So
thanks for
you can
having
find
me.
us here every Monday night at 7 p.m. Central on Bill of Rights Network, the Paranormal Pride page, the Paranormal Pride YouTube. You can find us on Dark Realm TV, on Roku and Fire Stick. You can also find us on Born TV on Rumble. And you can also find us on Things Network. We are part of Things of Florida. And Carl, as you saw earlier, was here covering for my butt. He's part of Things of Missouri. And then you can also find us on Temple of Phoenix Rising Entertainment's Facebook page. So, and join us tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Central, where Carl, Ron, and I will be giving the third degree to some lucky person that decides to come on with us, and we will have a great time. I guarantee it. So make sure you guys all come and check that out. But in the meantime, everybody, please have an excellent week and live life to the fullest. Thank you and have a great night.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brett.